And good morning, everyone. Welcome into Morning Invest on this Monday, September 14th. I'm Clayton Morris. So glad to have you here on the show. We're going to start the official show in about 10 minutes. We always do our little pre-show, so if you're watching the replay, you can fast forward. But hey, this is our live show, so we've got thousands of people who join us every morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. So glad to have you all here on this Monday show. We have got a jam-packed show for you. I wish the weekend could be quiet with some a lack of news, but no, we're in the middle of a pandemic. We've got wildfires. We have a hurricane barreling down on the Gulf Coast once again. NFL began, and we've got rising coronavirus numbers this morning. We're going to get to all of that and more, plus the latest on why I believe the stimulus is dead. We are at a dead end. We're going to go through a number of senators who spoke over the weekend about where their thoughts are on this and probably why we won't see anything until after election day. Meanwhile, the country continues to deal with massive unemployment. So we're going to deep dive today, unemployment benefits, and the one word, really, the one phrase that most people aren't even talking about. In fact, the mainstream media and the New York Times had it in one of their articles and deleted it. Yes, they deleted it. Some sleuthing and good reporting this morning as to how the mainstream media is ignoring some of the biggest unemployment numbers. We're going to talk about that and what it means for the rest of us. We've got a big show. So welcome in. We're going to start in about 8 minutes. Grover is here. He is zonked out this morning. I had to go out a little bit this morning, so he was just running around like crazy. But he is here for the show. Grover, can you say hi at all? We took him to the groomer the other day, and he bit the groomer, which is not good news. And they said, yeah, bring him back when he's a little bit older. But we did get his ears cleaned and got his nails cut. So good. I'm glad someone else was able to do that, because I try to clip his nails. It doesn't happen. Yeah, that's right, buddy. Welcome, Ryan. Welcome, everyone, to the show. We got a bunch of channel members here, I see. And if you want to join and become a channel member, it's very simple to do. Just go to morninginvest.com/join. That's how you can become a channel member. And thank you to everyone who participated in our members-only chat on Friday. I really appreciate that. And if you won some of our new Grover mugs, those have been shipped. Should be out in the mail to you. And you should receive those as soon. Everything's delayed right now because of coronavirus. So saying ship times are like the end of September or mid-September, 25th, something like that. But we will keep an eye on all of those. How's everyone doing today in the chat? Let me know. Hello, everyone from Montana. Debbie Howard is here. Becky Valter is here. I moved the lamp. Yeah, we moved the lamp out of the way. Yeah, we did. I heard your feedback. If you're new to the show, we had a lamp over here. Big lamp. But we're adjusting things. We've got a lot more to adjust, by the way. We're getting all of the camera gear adjusted, lighting adjusted, graphics adjusted. Everything's growing on this show. So thank you to everyone who's been a channel member and been a part of Morning Invest for a while. And hey, if you're new here, let me know. Are you new here? Say hello. I'm new in the chat. Just welcome, and we will welcome you with open arms, and you become a channel subscriber. Thank you so much. Anita Garrett says, I finally got the notice that the show is on. Fabulous. Maybe YouTube is actually doing its job for once. Thank you, YouTube, for actually getting your act together on this. Leah Towns says, what's the benefit of becoming a channel member? Well, we do members-only chat days on the show. We're going to be doing members-only live streams. So just members will have access to those live streams where we're going to be deep diving financial news, helping you build financial empowerment, financial wealth. We're going to teach you, some of the deeper dive topics that we might not cover here on the show in order to become an entrepreneur, et cetera. So we'll cover those things on the channel membership. Just members only content that you won't get anywhere else. But also think of it as a way to support the channel. This is independent journalism. This is not the New York Times. This is not MSNBC. This is not Fox News. We cover the stories that I believe matter to you, that you will not see covered on the mainstream media. In fact, we're going to feature one story today that got completely whitewashed by the New York Times. And so you can see just how corrupt the big mainstream corporate media is. So when you support our channel, you're supporting independent journalism. You're supporting us being able to do this show every day. Grover thanks you because it keeps him employed. He's able to get his kibble. So thank you for that. But thank you for all the things we're able to do here on the show by providing, getting different equipment and everything like that. So if you want to become a channel member, great. No pressure at all, but you can do so by just going to morninginvest.com/join. And I think it's like the price of a cup of coffee per month if you become a channel member. That's it. So no pressure. But our newsletter is totally free every morning too. So I don't know how many of you get our newsletter. It's totally free by going to morninginvest.com. We work very hard on it. You'll get it delivered to your inbox first thing in the morning. Super simple to do. And you can read the news in about 5 minutes. Again, totally free. So we're doing as much value for free as we can around here. And if you become a super chat, thank you for your super chat, Dana, or you become a channel member, it just helps the channel a little bit. So thank you so much. All right, we're going to start the show in just about 3 minutes here. I want to see all our new faces here. How many new folks do we got here? Hey, Travell Wilson am I saying that right? Travell or Travella Wilson, good morning. I'm a new member. Thank you so much. Let me make sure that okay. Good morning, everyone. You got your... Ronald Barber has been watching for about 3 months now. Thank you. You say, I love the show. I appreciate that. Anita Garrett says you do an awesome job. Clayton and Grover too. Thank you so much. Susan Inez, I know we were feeling extra this weekend. We decided to send out the Sunday newsletter to everyone. Now, to get the Sunday newsletter, you have to refer 3 friends to sign up, and then you get access to our Sunday newsletter. But I was feeling generous this weekend. There was a lot of really interesting news in there that I thought, hey, everyone could benefit from. But going forward, yes, the Sunday newsletter is only for people who refer 3 people. And it's super simple to do. If you're already a newsletter subscriber, at the very bottom, you'll see a big picture of Grover with a mug. Just click on that rewards button, and you actually can log into your rewards dashboard and see how many people you referred. You have your own personalized link that you can just email out to 3 friends or post it on Facebook. Super simple to do. And then if any of your friends sign up for free, then you get access to the Sunday newsletter as our way of saying thank you. Plus also then there's other tiers too for free merchandise. We're doing stickers, mugs, and sweatshirts and things like that all just for sharing it with somebody else. I mean, look, that's how we grow, right? And I think if you love the newsletter, you can probably think of a few people in your family or friendship circle that might also appreciate it. So if you share it, we say thank you, and that's how we say thank you. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Florida. DeSantis, someone saying, TJ saying Ron DeSantis has that herd immunity mentality. Kevin Snyder, you're not showing up as a member. You said you paid for 6 months. We don't have like a 6-month membership. We just have, it's month to month. But you've been paying for 6 months? Again, that's something that YouTube sets up. So you just need to go through your YouTube dashboard. We don't control that, actually. Unfortunately, YouTube kind of controls that whole thing. So if you're having a problem getting access to your members area, maybe you can just click on the support chat icon within YouTube and complain to them if you would be so kind. Any news on the stimulus front? We will have that. Oh, James, I'm sorry, but we've got a lot of stimulus news today on the show. We're going to be deep diving the very latest on that and what it means right now. You have some chief investment strategists saying, look, there's not a lot of evidence that we need another stimulus bill, which is like mind-blowing to me. We're going to look at that and some of the percentage layoffs reported this morning. We really see no difference in the amount of you that need a stimulus, need direct payments right now in order to keep your family afloat. There's no difference in the polling. You all still need it. But the Senate looks like Congress is not moving on, so we're going to get to that a little bit later in the show. All right, the show starts now, folks. Grover, are you ready for the big show? All right, he's ready. And we've got a new Gordon Foster. Thank you so much for your super chat. I appreciate that. All right. Everyone can hear me at home okay? You guys are all good? So what we do on the show is I like to cover the 5 things that you missed, 5 big news stories that I think are important for the economy, national news, and then we do our deep dive segments. And today we're going to be looking at unemployment and the new unemployment numbers and what this means for our economy going forward. And the thing that most politicians, most news media are not talking about, those permanent job losses we're going to look at and why we need another stimulus. We're also going to be deep diving the very latest on the stimulus and where things are right now with the latest news from this weekend and overnight, and reporting from different senators and White House members as well that look, where we're going to be going with this over the next few weeks as we head into Election Day. All right, so, and here we go. Here we go. Hey, good morning, everyone. Welcome into Morning Invest on this Monday, September 14th. I am Clayton Morris. So glad to have you all here. Grover is here as well, my sidekick, my 7-month-old little baby boy. Who's a pampered puppy this morning. We've got a big show on tap for you. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Today on the show, we're going to be talking about the very latest on the stimulus numbers and the stimulus front. Why I think it's probably dead in the water until after Election Day. We're going to hear from Senator Marco Rubio over the weekend on where his thoughts are on this. A number of different members of the Senate have come forward, and politicians in general, plus some chief strategists, economic strategists, who say, I don't even see a need for another stimulus. I'm fine. I don't even see a need for another stimulus for the American people, right? What kind of data are you looking at? Get your head out of the sand, morons. Really? I mean, what more evidence do you need that we are hurting in a massive way? We need stimulus now, and I will continue to push for it. So we're going to be covering all of that and more. We're going to deep dive this morning another topic which I think is of utmost importance, that are the unemployment numbers. The latest data out over this late last week and into this weekend on these unemployment and job loss numbers, and why the mainstream media is lying to you about what these numbers mean. So if you're new to the show, please subscribe, smash that like button. This is a business news show for the 99%, not the 1%, not the Wall Street wealthy. It's for the real Americans who want the real story that you're not going to get from your corporate media. So thank you for becoming a channel member and supporting independent journalism. I really appreciate it when you support this channel. That's exactly what you do. I like to start the show with the 5 things that you missed. And we're going to start right now with coronavirus and the latest data on COVID-19 rising around the world. Overall cases are going down in the United States, but rising in 11 states. And Dr. Fauci saying that the data that he's seeing right now on this is troubling. We'll get to him in a second. But if you're listening to President Trump talk about a vaccine, he was out there at a maskless rally out in Nevada. We know what happened after the Oklahoma rally, where officials said that as a result of this massive gathering of people without masks, we saw a spike in the number of cases. Well, he was out there in Nevada talking about coronavirus and the vaccine that he says is likely to come very, very soon, and that he believes we've turned a corner. Now, turning a corner is a baseball term, right? You're rounding the corner, going to home. You're trying to get to home, because you've either hit a home run or someone else has hit a single or a double, and you're rounding the bases to come home. So President Trump thinks we've turned a corner, and yet it seems like evidence to the contrary. Here's President Trump yesterday speaking in Nevada.
And we're developing a vaccine in record time. It will be ready before the end of the year, and maybe much sooner than that. They're very unhappy about that. You know, it's amazing. We have a couple of really great experts. One we call him Dr. Scott. You know what I'm talking about? He's great. He said, this is the only time they were grilling him on television, saying, well, the vaccine's going too fast. You know why that's too fast? Because they don't want it to happen before the election.
Mm-hmm. So we've rounded a corner. The vaccine could be coming very, very soon. Could be coming even maybe before Election Day. That's the latest from the White House on that front. And it seems to me that we might be pushing this way too fast and skipping clinical trials on the third phase of this, which could be troublesome. Now, have we rounded a corner? Dr. Anthony Fauci was interviewed yesterday on this. And the question is now, who should we believe? Should we believe President Trump or the top infectious disease doctors in the country? Who should we believe? So Dr. Fauci yesterday saying that he had to disagree with President Trump on this we're rounding the corner idea. Take a listen to the doctor.
Well, I'm sorry, but I have to disagree with that, because if you look at the thing that you just mentioned, the statistics, Andrea, they're disturbing. We're plateauing at around 40,000 cases a day, and the deaths are around 1,000. As we enter, and we turn the corner after the Labor Day weekend, I'm hoping that we do not see a surge in cases as we've seen following the 4th of July and Memorial Day. But when you have a baseline of infections that are 40,000 per day, and you have threats of increased test positivity in certain regions of the country, such as the Dakotas and Montana and places like that, what we don't want to see is going into the fall season when people will be spending more time indoors, and that's not good for a respiratory-borne virus. You don't want to start off already with a baseline that's so high. So the thing that we've all been talking about, I've been stressing this over the last few weeks to a month or more, to try as best as possible to get that level down so that when you go into a more precarious situation like the fall and the winter, you won't have a situation where you really are at a disadvantage right from the very beginning.
So 40,000 new cases per day, 1,000 deaths per day. Does that sound like we've turned the corner? So the question is, what will we see from this Labor Day statistics? When everyone's at the beach, everyone's hanging out together at backyard parties and things like that, will we see a spike? That is the concern. But there are concerns right now in the United States, in 11 states. Alaska, Arkansas, Connecticut, Delaware, Maine, Nebraska, New Hampshire, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. All of those areas seeing a surge in cases. And you'll recall today in Nebraska, I reported this last week, today in Nebraska is the day that the governor there is saying no more social distancing required. Back to normal, everyone. And now you're seeing a surge there and no social distancing. So let's keep our eye on Nebraska. Anybody watching right now in Nebraska, let me know in the comments below. Wisconsin also hit a new record high, average daily new cases, 1,300 new infections, and a 32% increase from a week ago. So what do you think? Have we rounded the corner? Let me know in the comments below. The next thing that I think you've missed, and the latest data on this, is the wildfires and where we are seeing the biggest trouble right now across the western part of the United States. It is an absolute disaster. And food banks lining up, trying to get food out to the neediest people right now. Entire communities decimated. Big concerns. I mean, look at Phoenix, Oregon here, just totally destroyed. All sorts of mobile home parks totally destroyed. Everyone being told really to stay indoors, that the air quality there is so bad. I was struck. How in the world did the 49ers play yesterday? I mean, with air quality looking like this, absolute disaster in those areas. And the particulates are so high that, in fact, even leaving the house, even just wearing one of those coronavirus masks, I'm trying to look, we have 30 of them laying around here. I can't find one when I need one. But even leaving the house with those on is not enough. I mean, people are having to leave the house, if they do, with respirators, full-on respirators in order to breathe leaving the house. Air filters. We reported this morning in the newsletter. Sales of air filters have been through the roof. And by the way, if any one of you wants to order an air filter, I recommend going to the wirecutter.com. Wirecutter had been bought by the New York Times a number of years ago, but it started as an independent tech review site a number of years ago. Excellent journalism. They deep dive all of these different air purifiers and different things. They test all of them. And they have the #1 air purifier listed on that website. By far, it removes the most particulates in the air, way better than some other ones that are even more expensive. So I think you can get I think the high quality air filter that they recommend is like $80. but it removes like 99% of particulates, and it's really fantastic. So if anybody needs it, please go check out thewirecutter.com for their recommendation on the best air filters. So our thoughts are with anyone who's been in harm's way in dealing with these wildfires out west. Let's talk about unemployment benefits this morning, because the unemployment benefits have run dry. These were the $300 additional unemployment benefits that was put in place by President Trump during his executive order a few weeks ago. They expire this week. President Trump had hoped that Congress would have had some sort of additional plan in place, but of course they got nothing done. Again, we're going to be talking about the stimulus a little bit further in the program here, but nothing. Congress has no plan at this hour to pass any additional stimulus. And that Republican bill last week went nowhere. And many states are just getting around to paying out this money after delays in receiving it in the first place from FEMA. Now, this FEMA money, let's just talk about that for a second. All of this FEMA money is needed desperately right now, obviously, for what's happening with the wildfires. Also, another hurricane barreling down on the Gulf Coast. But this money was only set to really last 3 weeks to begin with. And now it's all but drying up. States like California had to pay back in one lump sum, and will only have it this week left before the pot runs totally dry on this unemployment benefits number. So many of you waiting on unemployment benefits, if you're waiting on it, you may have a backlog where you're still waiting to get these checks over the next few weeks. And some states have said that they were behind, like California and others. So you may still get them, but this is it. The well runs dry at this point, and Congress has no additional stimulus plans. And that's the very latest on unemployment. The fourth thing that I think you missed overnight, and big news over the weekend on TikTok, on the business side, President Trump, of course, had been calling TikTok a national security risk, a national security threat. Oracle is now in the lead to buy TikTok, to become, not even technically buy them, but to be called their trusted tech partner. So this would take over the U.S.-based operations of the company. And we still don't understand how this is actually going to work. How is TikTok, which is a Chinese-based company, going to hand over a portion of their business to Oracle without them being connected in some way? The big fear from the United States side is that they're going to get personal data from you and give it to the Chinese government. Well, how are they not going to buy it? So how is Oracle not actually going to buy TikTok? They're just going to become a trusted tech partner. I still see this as a huge problem. I mean, come on. So they're going to be kind of working with the Chinese-based version of TikTok, sharing data back and forth. How are they going to set up sort of a wall to make sure that they're separate entities, separate companies in some way, and to, make the federal government happy that they're not giving our secrets away, giving our personal data away to the Chinese government? TikTok has repeatedly said that it wouldn't hand over your data. The president's threat to ban TikTok, of course, set off this huge quest among all of these companies. Microsoft was in the lead, it looked like, and we found out this weekend that TikTok rejected Microsoft's offer. They're out of the picture now. Walmart was also in the mix. So a number of big questions still on the table about this. I mean, it is quickly becoming one of the biggest social networks in the world. There are still a number of big questions. So if this isn't technically a sale, what are the exact terms of this deal? Will it satisfy the United States government and the Chinese governments? Will they both be okay with this? And the third is, what is the fate of their algorithm? Like, what's going to happen now? Is it going to be totally destroyed as a result of this and essentially kill the company because they've had to cut it in half? Almost like breaking up a monopoly in some way. That's kind of what this reminds me of, like what happened with AT&T a number of years ago. Kind of to split it up, make smaller versions of it, and it ends up crushing it. So we'll keep our eye on this. This is a big business story that unfolded over the weekend. And the fifth thing that I think you need to know about and that you might have missed over the weekend, President Trump saying that he wants 4 more years. We understand that he's running for re-election. But President Trump at a rally in Nevada said he wants maybe even a 3rd term. And he said this to his crowd, pushing for a possible 3rd term of the Trump presidency. Here was President Trump on his 3rd term quest. And, the crowd was there, by the way. This crowd had no masks. the one in Nevada, in Henderson, Nevada.
And 51 days from now, we're going to win Nevada, and we're going to win 4 more years in the White House. And after we win 4 more years, we'll ask for maybe another 4 or so. Well, thank you very much. You know, whenever I say that, I watch, look at all that news back there. Look at all that fake news. When I say that, their heads explode.
Their heads explode. No, but when you say maybe I'll have another 4 years after my term limits are up, yeah, that does make a lot of, I mean, those are the types of things that dictators end up saying, or neo-fascists end up saying. That I have 8 years under the Constitution, but maybe I'll run again. Maybe I'll go another 4 years. I'm just saying. And then he does that just to get a rise out of the media. Let me know your thoughts on that. Those are the 5 things that you missed overnight. Thank you so much for subscribing to the channel and smashing that bell notification so you'll be notified whenever we publish a brand new video. And thank you for subscribing also to our daily morning newsletter. We really appreciate that. We publish it first thing in the morning, so you get it delivered to your inbox. Just go to morninginvest.com and subscribe. So thank you to that. We're going to deep dive a number of topics today. We're going to talk about the latest on the stimulus front, why I believe it's dead. Just a moment. We're also going to be talking about those unemployment numbers and the numbers that the mainstream media is not talking about for some reason. In fact, the New York Times had it written in one of their stories and deleted it from their story with no reason. With no reasonable explanation. In fact, their update where you would normally say, hey, a previous version of our article included this quote. We were wrong about that. It's not there. It's just been removed. Interesting. Mainstream media, corporate mainstream media. So we'll talk about that and a little bit more. Let me check in on the chat room this morning. Good to see everyone. Get your snorkels out, people. We're deep diving. That's right. It's time where we get to spend a little bit more time on a topic than what you see on Clayton. Did you see Andrew Frances says, Clayton, did you see the rally with all of the people running? I counted 1 mask. Not surprising. Monique Woods says, so many things that he has done and gotten away with that other presidents would have been impeached for. Eric Fallout Guy, you're up in Kalispell, Montana, beautiful part of the world. I used to live in Helena, Montana when I was a political reporter for CBS News. You said it's really smoky in Kalispell, Montana. Please stay safe up there. Morning from Oregon. Thank you, guys. Yeah, please, seek the truth, open your eyes. Unlike Grover, who's half asleep right now. Thank you to all of our new channel members here. We're going to talk about the stimulus in just a moment. Yeah, we have 50 days left, folks. Can you believe that? 50 days left until the election. 50 days. How many of you have already done early voting? Early voting is taking place through a number of states right now. Have you requested your ballot? Do you have your mail-in ballot? Make sure you take advantage of that. Hit the old this button here, and we're going to deep dive. Whoop, let me turn this off. Here's here we go. Let me take a little drink of coffee. Well, folks, I wish I had better news on the stimulus front. What I'm bringing you today is not good, and this is why I believe the stimulus is dead, at the very least until after the election, and maybe not even then. As we enter some of the most tumultuous few months, perhaps in American history. I mean, think about whoever wins this election in the early November, what's going to happen for the next 2 months while we have this transition period, either for a continuation of President Trump or a transition of power to a Joe Biden? What's going to happen? There's a number of experts, a number of journalists, a number of economists who are predicting absolute tumult in the country. And I might be one of them to think that that's going to be an easy transition of power. I mean, raise your hand if you think that President Trump is going to leave office just peacefully, just going to be, oh, here you go, Joe, here are the keys to the house. Take care, I'm out of here. But beyond that, I mean, the American people sort of sit in the balance of all of this, and legislation sits in the balance of all of this. Remember, the Senate goes on vacation on October 9th. They're done. They get to go back. I mean, Congress gets to go back and campaign for the November election. They're done. We're not going to see anything. Do you think we're going to see anything in the next week or two? Right now, all of the headlines and the reporting over the weekend shows that we are at absolute dead end right now. Senate Republicans, of course, last week tried and failed to pass a slimmed-down, skinny bill. That emaciated bill was a total joke. It had some money for small businesses, some money for schools, and that $300 additional in weekly unemployment benefits. They knew it would never pass. Of course, they never voted on the Democrats' HEROES Act, which was passed back in May. They let that sit there and do nothing. Negotiations are now totally at a dead end, according to Kansas Senator Pat Roberts, who says, no way, under this bill's failure, we are not doing anything. Senator Marco Rubio was also asked about that this weekend. He says he doesn't see this going anywhere, and he tried to pin the blame firmly on the Democrats. Let's listen to Marco Rubio this weekend taking aim at Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer on this.
If we can do something to make things better, this will help people. It isn't ultimately probably going to become law because I believe Nancy Pelosi and Senator Schumer have made the decision that they are better off doing nothing politically for November. In essence, they've calculated, let's do nothing. Things will get really bad. People will be hurting. They'll blame Donald Trump and they'll vote against Republicans in November. That's the calculation they've made. And as long as that's the calculation they hold, I think they're going to object to doing anything.
Which, I mean, come on. I mean, do you buy that for a second? Let's be honest. There's been politics at play on both sides of this. But Democrats passed a massive bill back in May. Yes, there was tons of liberal bloat in that bill. But guess what? Even the skinny bill that Republicans passed last week, or attempted to pass last week, or they rolled it out, had millions of dollars in there for slush fund money for coal companies. There was plenty of bloat even in their little skinny stimulus emaciated bill. So both parties throw in different pet projects that they want, but at least use it as a starting point. But this argument that now we're just a few weeks away from the election and Democrats are stonewalling, when we had all summer where Republicans sat and pressed pause, when Mitch McConnell said we want to press pause and not do anything because we want to see how the current stimulus takes hold in the economy. Well, it fell flat. It kept certain people out of poverty, but it kept us basically at a status quo. And now, because we don't have those additional unemployment benefits, now we're starting to see those permanent job loss numbers continuing to rise. And that is going to be the real story we're going to get to here in a moment in our next deep dive. Why all of this matters? Because spending right now is decreasing. Job gains are slowing, and many small businesses warn right now that without more assistance from the government, they will run out of cash before the year end, and they will shut down for good. We know that there's going to be 33% of companies have admitted that in October, they are going to have to furlough huge portions of their staff. We've already known about the airline industry, which is going to furlough tens of thousands of workers. Boeing is set to lay off about 40,000 people. These job losses as we enter into October are going to be massive, and many of them will become permanent. So how did this all happen? Well, because the stock market was booming. And so you had the White House saying, look, we're doing great. We're doing great. The stock market is doing great. Guess what? Do you know that during the pandemic of 1918, during the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918, the stock market was booming? It was just as out of whack then as it is now. I was going over the data on this weekend, and I was struck by how similar they looked, not only in everyone wearing masks and millions of people dying as a result of it, but the totally out of whack Wall Street was doing just fine. And just the same now. Wall Street doing just fine because all of these companies reward layoffs. They see it as helping the economy. when companies remove a lot of waste or quote unquote, employees from their bottom line, it helps those companies. Like I said, look at MGM Studios. MGM, who laid off thousands of people at their casinos. What happened to their stock? It went up because Wall Street rewards that type of behavior. So we still have the same numbers in our polling. So the Axios poll has shown little change among people who actually need to pay their bills. The same thing is true. Like, your position hasn't gotten any better, has it? Let me know in the chat if you do not now suddenly need a stimulus. It's September, you needed one in August, and now you don't? How many of you have switched positions on that? Let me know in the comments below if that's the case. But according to the polling data out this morning, you're still having difficulty paying your rent, paying your mortgage, affording household goods over the past 2 months. That number hasn't changed. So I don't know where Congress's head is at on this. Nothing has changed. But again, they're seeing Wall Street doing just fine. They're seeing, the Federal Reserve continuing to print digital money to prop up artificially these banks and an overinflated value for these businesses right now. The U.S. dollar continues to decline against other world currencies. And yet the Congress sits back and doesn't see the need or the urgency to pass an additional stimulus. The reported number of layoffs, according to the data this morning, shows that furloughs and permanent job losses are at the end of August was the lowest since mid-March, though it's only 1 percentage point below recent levels. But a lot of this data has been misreported by the mainstream media, which we're going to talk about in our next deep dive. So what does it mean right now? Well, you have all these economists, you have all these rich people saying, I don't know if we even need this stimulus. Here's Jim Paulson. He's a chief investment strategist at the Luthold Group. He said, right now there's just not a lot of evidence that we need another stimulus bill imminently. What evidence is he talking about? There's not a lot of evidence? I've just given you like 6 different data points. He says it's not just the stock market, it's the data coming out every day. That, hey, fine, we're fine right now. Production is fine, housing is fine. But again, it's the little person who's not a part of that larger Wall Street economy that's getting crushed. It's the people that were forced out of their homes. Washington Post had a really interesting deep dive piece on it last week about people who've been forced out of their homes because they can't pay. They've been scrounging money just to live a little bit, and they've been moving into these small hotels where they're just trying to get by day to day by living in these like day rate hotels. And they're getting jobs at the fast food businesses, Wendy's and McDonald's and Burger King, just to be able to pay the day rate to stay at these hotels. Yeah, I'm sure you're fine, chief investment strategist who's talking to CNBC and lives in your Wall Street bubble. But millions of Americans are not. Right now, if the data rolls over, they're going to pass this thing in a heartbeat. So if the data somehow shifts, if suddenly housing starts to collapse, suddenly Wall Street takes a dive, then guess what? You'll start to see them talking about a stimulus package again. But right now, they are not passing anything. The problem is there's a lagged effect, and it could unfold over the next few months, and it's going to be after the election. So folks, don't count on anything happening right now before the election. We will not see another stimulus package pushed through before the election, not only because of politics and because Republicans decided to push pause until after Labor Day to get anything done. I blame that fully on them, and I also blame the president for a lack of leadership on this all summer long. While he was out playing golf, he could have been talking to the American people in these hardest hit communities, and he said he could have been talking directly to those people that are working at Wendy's, that are working at Burger King right now, just trying to put food on the table. He could have said, look, I know how hard you've been hit, and I'm going to make sure that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and I, and we're going to work with Nancy Pelosi, and we're going to get together at Camp David or at the White House, even when they're supposed to be on vacation this summer. He could have shown absolute leadership from the presidential podium. Instead, he punted and deferred to some of the voices in his White House who said we don't need anything. People like Peter Navarro and Larry Kudlow and others. Wall Street's doing fine, Mr. President. You see the numbers. I don't think we need another stimulus. It's not going to help you get reelected. And now, on top of the politics, we have the government shutdown, which is just a few days away. That is the priority right now for Congress. And we don't have finalized numbers on that, and we don't have a final vote on that to get these continuing resolutions through to keep the government open. That is going to take precedent over any kind of a stimulus package. But the latest numbers and the latest data over the weekend suggest that they are at an absolute dead end, according to Kansas Senator Pat Roberts. Nothing. And where is the stalemate? Well, the stalemate is around the number. The stalemate is around state and local governments not getting any funding. The stalemate is over that $600 per month in per week in unemployment benefits. It's over frontline worker pay, money for hospitals, testing and tracing, and yes, schools are reopening, but also having the frontline worker and PPE and testing in place as well to stop the virus. That's been a huge piece of what Democrats want. They are far apart. They're trillions of dollars apart on this, and as we're heading into election, there is zero chance that we see some sort of a stimulus bill passed in the next few weeks. So that's the very latest on that stimulus front. We're going to be talking about the unemployment numbers in a second. Please go ahead and smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. Please don't forget, we publish our daily morning newsletter every day, first thing in the morning, so you can subscribe and delivered right to your inbox. It's totally free at morninginvest.com. So go and check it out. And we thank you so much for your support on downloading that newsletter and watching us on a daily basis. Thank you so much. All right, we're going to deep dive unemployment numbers here, and why I think the government is totally, or I think the mainstream media and everyone's basically lying to us. No one's talking about this. I've seen just a few smart journalists who I follow talking about this, and their voices are really being drowned out in the face of the mainstream media on this story. And when we start to go through some of the numbers here, you're going to see exactly why this is such a big deal. It is such a big deal, and no one's talking about it. And I wish that, frankly, I'm seeing some good signs from Joe Biden, who's actually going to be talking more about green energy and things. He's been talking about a number of things, which I thought he might not, or was going to be too much of a centrist Democrat and not push for some of the stuff that I would like to see. He last week said he wanted to extend our footprint in the Middle East with our military there, which I am not happy with. But then there are some other things that he stepped forward with on a green plan, which I'm excited about. But some stuff I don't like.
Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man.
Hey, got to keep it real, Joe. Got to keep it real. You say stuff I don't like. Bernie Sanders was pressed on this point this weekend. There's been some reporting that suggests that Bernie Sanders is concerned and thinks that Joe Biden is too centrist, and he came out in an interview and said that's garbage. He said, I've only said in private what I've said in public, which is, look, he said I was a progressive candidate. Yes, Joe is more of a centrist candidate than I am. There are some things that we need to do better, and I hope that Joe Biden talks about them. So he kind of squashed that rumor in an interview this weekend. But look, he's a progressive candidate. He doesn't want war. He wants $2,000 a month in stimulus for the American people, does Bernie Sanders. I would love for someone to ask Kamala Harris that question about the $2,000 per month. I mean, now that she's the vice presidential candidate, she, along with Bernie Sanders, Ed Markey, called for that $2,000 per month in benefits, in stimulus funding for the American people, retroactive to March, and it would be paid up through the end of the year. And then they would check it to see if the pandemic had lapsed, and then they would even continue it beyond January of 2021. I would love for someone to be able to ask her that question. I hope it gets brought up at a debate, or some other journalist gets a chance to answer it or ask her that. I'd love to have her on the show to ask her that question. Does she still support that? I don't know that Joe Biden supports that $2,000 per month in sort of universal basic income. Let me check in on the chat. Grace Spala says, I don't like what you're doing on Fridays, members only. That's not fair because I can't afford to join. I can't give my opinion. You can still give your opinion. But do you think, let me ask you this though, in reverse, We have people that support the channel, support independent journalism, and are able to help keep the lights on over here so that you're able to get a free show every day at 9 a.m. Eastern time. Is it fair to them to not be able to give a little back and say thank you to those individuals who take that extra step and provide and help out with the channel? All of those things for us to be able to bring on and hire people and hire employees and those types of things, it all comes from somewhere. So I really thank all of our channel members, but don't take it as an affront. You're still able to watch the show and comment. No, it's on Fridays we do the members only chat. That's on Fridays. But hey, look, Grace, if you're here chatting, offer something valuable to the chat, right? You've got Monday through Thursday to offer something valuable to the conversation. Instead of just complaining about Fridays, why don't you offer something great to the conversation Monday through Thursday? And then jump in and drop a super chat, or jump in and comment on the video afterwards, because all those comments, I read every one of them. So even if it's just not during the live chat on Fridays, but it's my way of saying thank you. We've got over 1,000 channel members now, and it's my way of saying thank you and way for all of them to interact, and that's just how it goes. I'm not going to apologize for that. Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Exactly. I love everyone, but you're able to support the channel in any number of ways. Just subscribing and being here and watching it, sharing it. Anyway, channel membership is something that YouTube created a few years ago, and it's been incredibly important for YouTube creators. It helps us do what we do. Without it, it'd be very difficult to do what we do. Thank you. All right, we are going to deep dive unemployment now. Let's talk about unemployment. And unemployment benefits end today. These were the executive order unemployment benefits rolled out by President Trump just a few weeks ago. A lot of states had a difficulty getting that money from FEMA to begin with, but those unemployment benefits end today, and this week is when they will dry up. With no other stimulus plan in place, we are headed for an unemployment disaster. And why the mainstream media isn't talking about perhaps the biggest story around these unemployment numbers is surprising to me. And it's not just about the unemployment numbers, which I think those numbers are fake to begin with. They're not accurately reporting the true number. That true number includes permanent job losses. Now, anytime over the years when I've ever covered those jobs numbers on the air, I always made it a point to say that when you hear about this unemployment number being, 8.4%, et cetera, that number does not include the people that have given up, have stopped looking for work, are not part of that system anymore. They have filed for pandemic unemployment assistance under the PUA program. They might be contract workers or gig employed workers. So they don't have permanent health care. They're working on as a freelance, sort of on a case-by-case basis. Those people have lost their jobs permanently and have now been applying for the PUA program. Well, guess what? Those numbers aren't counted in the broader unemployment numbers. Why? Because those people have, their jobs are gone. And so these are permanent job loss numbers that are not included in this data. I find it very interesting that the New York Times actually reported this in their story recently. They actually wrote about this in their story about the coronavirus updates. Here is the quote. In fact, there were individuals who ended up then sharing this online, and this was uncovered, great work by the Status Quo YouTube channel. Permanent job losses are mounting, they said. There are a large number of people who are being sidelined and could fall out of the labor force, according to this New York Times piece. That was a direct quote. Permanent job losses are mounting. There are a large number of people who are being sidelined and could fall out of the labor force. So they were talking specifically about the permanent job loss numbers. Guess what happened, though? A short time later, journalists went to go pull that quote directly from that article again, and guess what? It was gone. The New York Times just totally removed it. They removed the economist. They removed the professor whom they were quoting in that story. Forbes, in fact, had linked to that article separately in a separate piece and highlighted the fact that this data point was stark, that these jobs numbers are wrong because they don't reflect the larger number, which is the permanent job loss number, which has remained consistent week after week after week, but no one's talking about it. If you watch Fox News, you won't hear about this permanent job loss number, and most of the mainstream media isn't talking about it, and I don't know why. I don't know if it sort of undermines their corporate masters. I can't get it. But the New York Times just removes that entirely from their article. The number that no one is talking about is this permanent jobs loss number. And it's how it's tied directly to this lack of stimulus, by the way. So last week, we saw 1.7 million new unemployment claims filed. And yet some stories lied to you and told you that it was 884,000. That was the number they were telling you. They're like, oh, that was slightly good, that was not bad. But that didn't take into account all of the people that stopped looking for work. Those people are removed from the data set. This is true. Just to give you some more reference here, the record all time, was 600,000 jobs lost. And that was like 20 or 30 years ago. And now it's week after week after week that we have near 1 million jobs lost permanently. We continue to remember the most important number of all is this permanent job loss number, but you're not going to hear the president talking about it. And I'm surprised we're not hearing more Democrats talking about it, but we're not. A lot of people who are applying under the PUA program are actually contract workers, and so they're getting, these gig workers. So what we're really doing is underreporting the amount of new unemployment claims that have been filed across the United States. This permanent job loss number is continuing to tick up, and it continues to go and accelerate faster than any time in American history. No one is talking about this. It's faster than it was in 2008. It's faster than it was during the dot-com boom and bust. This permanent jobs loss figure, the problem with it, folks, is that it takes months, if not years, to replace those jobs. So this is not like furloughed workers who are temporarily pushed to the side and then return to work. These are permanent jobs that are gone forever and take years for those people to get back to work. Do you remember what happened after the 2008 recession? I remember interviewing people on our show. We did a lot of jobs segments during the show back in 2008, and one of the common refrains was, my skills have dried up. And now when I'm applying for that same job that somebody younger who has more fresh skills and who can work at a cheaper rate than me, they're getting the job. And now I'm having to change careers entirely or come up with something entirely new to do because, less expensive employees are now taking over those jobs, younger millennials, et cetera. And these 40, 50, 60-year-olds are being pushed out permanently. That's what happened then. And it's happening all over again, but at a much faster pace. So because it's calculated the way it is, it means that you're not only out there looking for a job, but that you actually don't qualify, but that somebody has to pay for you. So that unemployment rate, that's part of the reason why the unemployment rate was okay. Everyone's like, oh, that unemployment rate's okay. It's because the way it's calculated means that if you're not out there looking for a job, then you don't have to qualify for those unemployment benefits, and therefore they don't have to pay you. And then good, the government can all sit back and say, hey, this is great. Does that make any sense to you? So we're getting excited about fewer unemployment claims, but the reason that they're down is because more people just stop looking for work because their jobs are gone altogether, permanently. They've just given up. And, you know, and this is amazing. When I'm talking about the Senate, Congress, has basically just given up. They're walking around like everything's fine. Hey, everything's great. Everything's great. It's insane. They have zero urgency on this. And the problem is that the longer they drag their feet, because like what I just explained to you, the longer it takes to put these jobs back in place. So for every day that they waste not passing a stimulus package or some sort of a Green New Deal or some sort of a massive get back to work package in this country, those jobs are gone and those skills will dry up and those workers will be permanently out of the workforce, unemployed. And so for all of those people who don't want people living off of the government's, dole, so to speak, guess what? You're creating this environment for them to do that perpetually. You don't like entitlement programs, Republicans? You hate Social Security. You hate the welfare state. By not passing a stimulus plan, enabling businesses to keep the lights on, to keep people employed, you are creating your own version of this government, welfare state that's going to continue for years to come. Again, Wall Street doing just fine. Small businesses going out of business permanently. They don't have access to the same sort of resources that all of these big companies do. They're having to lay off those employees. Small town America, middle class, is being destroyed. No one's talking about it. We knew, though. Here's the big thing to me. I remember cataloging. I have a sort of a media library of sound bites and different quotes from different economists and senators and so forth that goes back months. Before I ever even started doing the show, I had pulled things for our newsletter, etc. But we knew about this back in April. So I went to the archives this morning to see it. And boy, I had like 4 or 5 different examples from economists and Wall Street experts, quote unquote, who were all saying the same thing, that if Congress doesn't pay attention to this, companies back then had said that 42% of their layoffs would become permanent job losses, permanent layoffs. They were calling for it back in May, right around when Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats were rolling out their heroes package. Did we pay attention to it? Here is Stephen Davis from April. Listen to this interview from April. University of Chicago Booth School. He talked about this specifically back in April, and he was not the only one.
Well, you cited the 42% figure. We got that in 2 parts. First, we surveyed firms in April and asked them, what fraction of your layoffs do you say are permanent? And that number was 23%. A recent household survey by the Washington Post actually got the same number. But then we did something else. We looked back and historically we said, of the layoffs that firms and workers thought were temporary when they happened, how many actually led to recalls? And a good chunk of them never led to recalls. So we put that historical evidence together with the survey evidence from April to come up with our 42% estimate.
Right. Now,
42%. They knew this back in April. Surveying all of these companies, large and small, 42% of their layoffs, unless there was some sort of larger stimulus that kept them afloat, they were going to have to lay off 42% of their staff would become permanent layoffs. We knew this. The data was there. And by the way, we heard from the airlines. We heard from a lot of big companies back in June, July, sent a warning to the president and Congress. Hey, American Airlines, United Airlines here, Ford, we're just going to let you know, Boeing, we're going to let you know that we're going to have like 30,000 people we're going to have to go from furloughing to laying off permanently in the fall if you guys don't get past a stimulus plan. That's where we are. Congress doesn't have a stimulus plan. There doesn't seem to be any sense of urgency about it. And you have the New York Times publishing stories where they're recognizing the permanent job loss is a major point of major economic disaster point, and then literally whitewashing the quote from their stories, removing it. No sign of it. Permanent job losses are mounting. There are a large number of people who are being sidelined and could fall out of the labor force, says the New York Times. Good luck trying to find it on their website. You won't be able to find it. New poll out this morning from the AP says that nearly half, this is not a new poll. We knew this in the summer. Here's another example. In July, in an AP poll, nearly half say the job lost to the virus won't return. This is directly during the time when Mitch McConnell was saying we have to put a pause on everything because, everything's looking good right now. Everything's looking good, so we're just going to take a pause and see how this stimulus is really doing in our economy. They don't care about the little guy. They don't. They cared about the big company. They cared about their own donors on Wall Street, the lobbyists who keep them funded so they can keep them in office, and they can keep pumping money into their corporate-backed media overlords on Wall Street. That's all this is. Folks, this is why we need to rise up. We need to make our voices heard. We need to make sure that we're supporting the candidates that support the American people. And I'm not saying that either of these guys right now are that at all. Look towards a Green candidate right now. Look independently. And you just want to say like maybe Biden's the lesser of two evils who, these guys are still all bought and sold by big corporations. How much do you think is actually going to change? Wall Street's been fairly muted on who they care as president or not. They're making, they're planning for a Biden presidency right now on Wall Street. But nothing's going to change on Wall Street for those guys. They'll continue to make money hand over fist while the little guy gets crushed. Remember, half of Obama's cabinet was Wall Street. Same is true of Trump. Do you think this stuff ever changes? That's where these millions of dollars come from to support these guys, and nothing ever changes. They do some token little legislation here and there to make us all feel better. But when it comes down to actual numbers, and we see this data right in front of them, they want to ignore it. And the mainstream media, like the New York Times, wanting to whitewash this stuff and knock it right off their front page, hiding these quotes about permanent job loss. Why? You're not going to see any of the mainstream media talking about it. And you'll see it right here on this show. And that's why you support local journalism, or that's why you support independent journalism. And I thank you for your support of this show, becoming a channel member, subscribing to our channel, just being a part of our channel, chatting with our channel, leaving comments. It doesn't matter. Subscribing to our free newsletter, just being a part of this community and making sure that you're sharing this message with somebody else. They don't want you to know this. You're not going to flip on MSNBC this afternoon and see it. You won't see it on Fox News. You won't see it anywhere. So thank you so much for supporting the show. Thank you for smashing that like button and becoming a channel subscriber. I really appreciate it. It really means the world to me. And don't forget, please, you can get the free morning newsletter just by going to morninginvest.com, totally free, delivered to your inbox first thing in the morning. We do this show 9 a.m. Eastern time every day. So thank you so much for becoming a part of this great community. Let me check in on the chat here. How you guys doing over there? It's hard to talk about this, but when you go through these numbers, the part that drives me absolutely bat crap crazy is the fact that Congress doesn't seem to have any sense of urgency at all on this. They don't care because it's not their donors. Supporting the little guy, there's no money in it for them. There's no money in it for them. Sorry, Joe. All these guys are bought and sold by these guys. All these guys are.
Come on, man. Come on, man. Come on, man.
Sorry, man. I tell the truth, buddy. I like you, Joe, but I will be stunned if much changes. I mean, we might not have the fascism. We might not have the rampant racism in the White House. But on a corporate level, I don't know that much is going to change. I would be stunned. I would be stunned. I would love for Joe Biden to come in and say, you know what, all of those big money donors who give me millions of dollars, all these defense contracts, guess what, guys? I'm going to cut the military budget, and I'm going to start helping the American people with that money. It'd be a revolt. Oh, you mean Lockheed Martin is not going to get the billions that the government subsidizes? Really? You're not going to make F-18 aircraft anymore that we don't even use or need? Really? You're going to start helping inner cities, making sure that they have proper access to education, rural broadband so they can do virtual learning when their schools are shut down, these kids are left behind, food, nutritious food in this country instead of processed crap. You know, why does the United States go back and forth with Mexico as the two fattest countries in the world with the most, obesity? You want to know, by the way, why the United States has had so many coronavirus deaths and problems? It's because we're one of the unhealthiest countries in the world. And we now know those people that, are obese, that have pre-existing health conditions, have inflammation, eat tons of processed food, all of that. We don't have a strong immune system. Can we talk about that? No, we don't want to talk about that. We just want to cover that up. It's cheaper for us to create these pre-packaged, processed food crap and keep Americans, unhealthy. Can we have a conversation about that instead of just trying to focus on the medicines that we give people? We try to help people beforehand, before they get sick? No, because there's no money in it. There's no money in it. These companies make money hand over fist on the medicines that they sell us. That's what this story is all about, too. Makes me sick. JB Squad says, my 6-month emergency funds are gone. Now what? Crispy Barbie, good for you. Yeah, I saw another one of those clickbait videos this morning. I mean, I can't believe this is the kind of stuff that drives me nuts. Let me see if I can find that. I saw another clip. Here's what I like to do is call out these clickbait. Yeah, here, let me just show you this. This was today. See if I can find it here. Yeah, look at this garbage. This is the kind of stuff that's clickbaiting out there, playing on people's fears right now. I mean, it drives me nuts. This kind of stuff you're seeing, this is the kind of stuff you're seeing on YouTube. Look, very good news. What good news? There's no good news on a stimulus. Look at this. Yes, this guy. Money coming. White House just confirmed. This guy has been doing nonstop clickbait for the past 3 months. Just confirmed $1,200 stimulus checks. Yeah, right. Okay. Sure. And here's my headline. The stimulus is dead and nearly buried, which is exactly true. There's zero sign that we're getting a stimulus. There was one other girl that posted one this morning that says, $1,200 stimulus checks coming this week, confirmed by the president. So please turn off that kind of stuff. If we have some actual news from Congress or the White House that will move the needle in any one direction, I'll bring it to you. Garbage. Rebecca Campbell says, let's talk, Clayton. Not eating healthy will make you sicker on every level. Health from the inside out. Remember, we are what we think as well. I agree. Chris Collins says, read yo chat, Clayton. You're getting info on here. I am getting info. Yeah, that one that looks like Janis Joplin. That's the one I'm talking about. Gail Briggs says, I'm 65. I gained weight in COVID-19. I'm scared to go back to the gym. Michelle says, do I have that web host site playing? I'm not sure I know what you mean. Yeah, I mean, the only thing you can do, I mean, you can just, if you want to report those channels, just click report. You click on the little three dots and just click report, and then you, YouTube doesn't have a tolerance for that kind of stuff. They also don't like when people falsely report stuff just because they're holding a grudge over somebody's YouTube channel. But you can report other channels as spam or misleading. So you can just click on that and do that. Michael says, check out economist Richard Wolff. He has very good insights. Yeah. Yeah, in fact, I featured Richard Wolff on the show last week. Yeah, those are the main stories I wanted to focus on today. Today we covered a lot on the show. We covered all the COVID cases and the rise, wildfires, unemployment benefits that have run out today. We've covered why President Trump says he wants a third term. If you missed that, I'll re-rack that clip here. Here's President Trump saying he wants a third term.
And 51 days from now, we're going to win Nevada, and we're going to win 4 more years in the White House. And after we win 4 more years, we'll ask for maybe another 4 or so.
How would you like that? I mean, that's the stuff that dictators, I mean, that's how dictators talk. If you start to look at what's unfolded in other countries, you have other, neo-fascists who've risen up in other countries. They start, this is how it starts. This is how it starts. This is the groundwork being laid for that type of behavior. Taking over the Justice Department, basically instructing your Justice Department to fire any prosecutors that are looking into you personally. We saw that in New York, Southern District of New York, etc. And the list goes on. I don't have time to cover it now, but that kind of talk is incredibly dangerous. This is how it happens. This is the kind of stuff we should all be scared of. Gail Briggs says Captain Clorox will not get a second term. Even though you're right. What are you talking about, Miss Priss? What would you like to talk about? I mean, what is more important right now than our economy and what's happening to the American people with this coronavirus? I mean, it's the number one thing on the mind of voters right now. Is coronavirus. It's the number one thing. It's losing our job, losing our livelihood, our ability to go back to work because our kids are now home, because schools have gone locked down again in certain areas. It's changed everything. What could be more important? Cracker Mac says, does Biden even know his name? Serious question.
Man, come on, man. Come on, man.
I don't know. I've said it months ago. I mean, it's sad that this is what it's come down to. This is our choice. You have a corporate Democrat and a corporate pseudo-Republican. I really thought when Trump was running, I mean, he's a liberal, as you know, but when he was running and he took on this appearance as being a Constitution flag-loving Republican, and he's not. Anyone who's known him for any length of time knows that he's playing a role. And all you need to do is look at who he's donated to, spoken about, his friends in New York City. I mean, I've interviewed him upwards of 40 times. Anyway, when he was running, he was speaking out against foreign wars and military spending. And I said, wow, he's the only guy speaking out about all these corporate wars that all of these Republicans make tons of money off of, lining the pockets of all these defense contractors, because Republicans love war. They love it. They love defense contractors. They love lining their pockets. So any excuse we can have to go to war, love it. Let's do it, according to Republicans. And I thought, here was a guy, he was up on stage slamming George W. Bush, for getting us into these two awful wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. Trillions of dollars spent, thousands of people dead. For what? And I thought, he's going to get into office, and he's literally going to bring all these people home, and he's going to cut the military spending back, and he's going to get rid of all. No, but what he did was he increased the military spending so all of these donors could make still money, right? He increased it by 20%, but he's also trying to get people home. So that's kind of a brilliant move, I guess, right? Because he can still line the pockets of all these defense contractors. They can keep making tanks and stuff that we don't need, and then also bring people home. I mean, this military-industrial complex is just disgusting. And we can't get an extra $300 a week for people who are unemployed? Come on, man. Give me a break. Garbage. Garbage, garbage. Just reading all your comments, guys. Jamie, you said 4 more terms of Trump is okay with you? Wow. Wow. Do you really believe that, or you just enjoy the comedy of it all? We're seeing what's happening in this country right now. I respect everyone's opinions here in the chat. Unless you make personal attacks, and I have no tolerance for that. But, oof. I mean, what kind of a disaster show. Yeah. No, trolls have every right of the freedom of speech. I mean, that's what makes our country great, right? Is our ability to speak out, have our voices heard. It's also the thing that makes our country not great, because it gives rise to some really damaging stuff, and that other countries don't suffer from. So let me know your thoughts on today's show. Drop me a line below. Thank you guys so much. Oh, I should mention, if you guys want 2 free stocks, our sponsor today is our friends over at Webull. Just for opening a brokerage account with them, I think they're giving you 1 free stock right now up to $1,600. They switch it like every week. But anyway, you don't ever have to do anything with the account. I know many thousands of you have already taken advantage of the account. But they support our show. So all you need to do is just open an account by using this link, by going to morninginvest.com/Webull. You open the brokerage account, you'll get a free stock valued up to $1,600. Again, you don't ever have to do anything else with the account. You can just sell the stock, and then you get the free money, transfer it back to your own account, and you're done. Or if you do want to invest in the stock market, find certain stocks that you're willing to invest in, things that are stable, smart investments, then they hope that you use them. So that's the account that I use over at Webull. So check them out, morninginvest.com/Webull. We thank them for their support of the show. Where did Grover run off to? Where did he go?
He went to pee in my husband.
Oh, okay. He went to go potty on our kids' floor?
Yeah.
That's great. Grover? That's what happens when they go to school. No one could take him out. So the kids aren't here to take him out, I guess, during the show. He just goes on the floor. Grover, what are you doing in there? We got him these Kongs, you know, and I watched this YouTube video on how to reward him for proper behavior. So we got him his kibble and put a little bit of peanut butter, and then you freeze it so that it, you know, they have to work on it and work on taking it out of there. This thing has been it's been fantastic. I put Miles to the job, so he's been filling up these Kongs with a little wet kibble and then freezing it with a little bit of peanut butter on it, and he'll just sit there for like an hour digging at this thing and working on his, because he's also still teething, so it helps him with that too. So it's been a good time. It's been a good time. It's been good occupying his time. Oh, look who's back. You back now, buddy? All right. Well, that's going to do it for today's show, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Don't forget, you can sign up for our daily morning newsletter for free. Go to morninginvest.com. We had about 400 new people sign up over the weekend, so I hope you enjoyed the Sunday newsletter, and I hope you enjoyed today's newsletter as well. We put a lot of work into that. Again, morninginvest.com is how you can subscribe to that free morning newsletter that keeps you informed every day. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. I'm a little fired up. I'm really upset about this, where Congress's head is at on the stimulus. And what bothers me more, I think, is that people don't see it. No one's talking about it. You're not seeing, you don't see MSNBC talking about it. You don't see CNN talking about it. You don't see Fox News talking about it. The reason they're not talking about it is buried. They're not even talking about the stimulus anymore. It's buried. It's not even on their front page anymore. It's not in their top story. It's not anything they're concerned about. They'd rather talk about the little back and forth stuff with Biden and Trump, and it's incredibly troubling. So we'll continue to talk about it here on the show, and we'll continue to follow it. We'll continue to have the journalists and the thought leaders who are driving that narrative here on the show continue to bring those voices and continue to push as much as we can to make sure that Congress is listening to us. If you want to find out about your voting rights and where you can vote, go to vote.org. Vote.org is where you can go to check out about your mail-in ballots, your absentee ballots, all of those things. Find out where your polling places are and get ready. 50 days, folks. 50 days until the biggest election in American history is before us. So please get all of your ducks in a row ahead of time. Don't let this become a surprise to you that, oh my gosh, we have an election? Not if you watch this show. Much love to all of you. Thank you guys so much. We will see you next time right here on Morning Invest. My thanks to all of you. Take care, everyone.